What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS, and in today's video, I'm doing Week 4's main slate first look. I actually had a pretty successful showdown last night. I took down one of the showdowns. Unfortunately, it was with 120 other people, so I didn't really get the top prize with it. But just happy I had a profitable showdown as well. Been pretty good on showdowns this year. Obviously, the main slates haven't been as nice to me, but been pretty good with showdowns so far this season. So let's get into it. So we get some top quarterbacks back in the main slate. Unfortunately, if you've looked, right, this is the first time I'm looking at the prices. Obviously, I look at the spreads, money lines, over unders. I look at all that stuff pretty much on Sunday, the day of the games, just seeing where the lines are at. So I already know where some of these are at. We get an 11 game slate. The front half of the game, so all the noon games are pretty much heavy favorited. So you get Buffalo against New Orleans, which is I think 16 points. Detroit over Cleveland, which was at 9 last I looked. Houston's a 7-point favorite. New England's 5.5. The Chargers are huge favorites. And then you get into the second half of the slate, right? The afternoon games. And that's when you get the higher totals. You get like 47, 48, 49, all sorts. So I'm interested to see what the price points are going to be because of what the matchups are. This could be interesting. So Josh Allen, Lamar, Jayden Daniels, all three above 7K. We'll see if Jayden Daniels plays. But Josh Allen, yes. And I mean, in a great spot against New Orleans. I just saw what Sam Darnold and the Seahawks did against them. James Cook, obviously, in a really good spot then as well. If you want a safe play, Josh Allen seems like one of the safer plays you can have this week at 7,700. Granted, you're paying up, right? We talked about it 2 weeks ago. The price of the expensive quarterbacks wasn't that expensive compared to what we saw. Now we're starting to see that. So 77, 75 for Lamar on the road against Kansas City. I think this one could be a really, really good tournament play between Baltimore and Kansas City. Baltimore, I mean, they had a tough game against Detroit last night, but I mean, the first half looked pretty good. Second half, they had moments, so I'm okay with Lamar at 7,500. Obviously, Josh Allen just seems better, especially for only $200 more. And then we get a huge conference game between Philly and Tampa Bay, and this one's kind of upsetting because of the Mike Evans situation. It seems like Mike Evans is going to be out, so it's just going to be Emeka Egbuka, Sterling Shepard, some various names, Kate Otten, but it would be a lot better if we had the Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Emeka Egbuka versus Philly. This one would be really good. So I do like the Jalen Hurts side of it against Tampa. We saw last week when Jalen Hurts actually had to throw the ball. They had a really good game, and that's against a Rams defense. So now you get Tampa Bay's defense. I still think that Jalen Hurts is in a really, really good spot at 6,700. Jared Goff also, this one, he's in a good spot, right? We saw what Cleveland defense did to another NFC team. But, I mean, I would put Detroit's offense over Green Bay's offense. I think they're more versatile. Their wide receivers obviously better, tight end better, and, not limited to one running back. Kind of like Green Bay is. They've utilized other running backs. But regardless, I think Jared Goff's in a good spot at 6,400 against Cleveland. Obviously, it's definitely not going to be a cash play. You get some way better matchups, probably cheaper as well. So going down, Herbert against the Giants, for example, this right here, 6,300. I'd rather play Herbert for $100 cheaper against the Giants and Goff against Cleveland. Purdy, we'll watch Purdy's status against Jacksonville. Could be in a good spot. Would watch Juwan Jennings' status as well. See if we get Purdy, Jennings back this week. I would be careful though. We'll just see later in the week how that goes. Mahomes, 6K against Baltimore. Here's the thing about Mahomes. He's put up some pretty good fantasy numbers so far this season compared to what we saw last season. Granted, the wide receiver injuries. We'll kind of see Xavier Worthy's status, but I wouldn't depend on it. Seems like they're finding a way to still get the ball down the field. With Thornton being utilized, Juju is doing Juju things to where every time he ends up back on Kansas City and there's some injuries, he steps up. and then Marquise Brown. So yeah, I do like Patrick Mahomes at 6K against Baltimore. I think it's a really good price for him. And we just saw what Detroit's defense did against Baltimore last night. The thing about Matt Stafford, you look at Matt Stafford's fantasy points, they're not good. They're truly not good, right? This is not winning you anything. But really, really quick, let me just go to this game and just show you guys something, because this is crazy. Look at Puka and Devontae Adams. Look at Puka's numbers, right? 25 plus every week. Look at Devontae Adams' numbers the last 2 weeks. 25.6, 14.6. Like, he's producing some good wide receiver fantasy numbers, even though he's not producing at the quarterback position. Caleb Williams, 58. This is probably going to be a popular game. Again, is a Chicago on the other side. Going against a Vegas team. Like, it's, yes, this one screams cash chalk. Again, is Chicago and Vegas. Again, Caleb Williams, we've seen what he's produced so far this fantasy season. 4 touchdowns. Almost, he was 2 yards short of the 300-yard bonus, which would have put him well over 30 DraftKings points in this slate. But yeah, he's in another good spot. His price is still very cheap, so I imagine Caleb Williams is going to be in the cash pool this week, it seems like. Daniel Jones, 56. Yet again, Daniel Jones has got to be worth, for the price point that you're paying for these guys. Like, his fantasy numbers have went down, and his price is going up. It's another tough matchup, but I mean, look at the passing touchdowns, right? They're relying upon Jonathan Taylor a lot in a game where they might have to pass a little more. We'll see what that looks like. We could see Daniel Jones go to a more, friendly passing system. But even then, like, he's still been pretty damn efficient passing, right? He's throwing about 70% completion percentage, throwing well over 200 yards a game, threw a touchdown in every game. It's just the rushing touchdowns that he's gotten that's really boosted his fantasy numbers. But he's 5,600, so he's still playable. Drake May at 5,500. Now, I was apparently totally wrong on this situation. You don't play anybody against Carolina's defense. They're an elite defense that just shut out a division opponent. Yeah, but Drake May, for his price point, yet again, these guys, I've talked about Daniel Jones. I've talked about Drake May. These guys are going to keep being cheap quarterbacks, and they're going to keep producing. It's just, do you get that huge game, right, the 26 or the 21, based off their price point, that really, really help your lineups out. Goes up a little bit here against Carolina. I still don't mind it. They're at home. They were 5.5-point favorites, so this is probably one of the only times you're going to see New England favorited by that much this season. So Drake May's in a good spot. Geno Smith also in a really good spot. He's at 5,400 at home against Chicago. Yet again, this guy is putting up some great fantasy numbers at a cheap price, right? DraftKings is not adjusting for these guys' prices. Granted, you look at what he did in the showdown game, not the main slate, but showdown, 6.2. Yet again, another showdown, but he gets 26. No, this wasn't a showdown. I'm sorry. This was on the main slate, 26, and then 21 against New England. So he's put up 2 20-plus point performances on main slates, and he's got another good matchup against the Bears this week. CJ Stroud. This one is interesting to me of CJ Stroud. I like Houston's offense in this one. They have not done really anything so far this season. This could be a bounce back opportunity. The one thing, you're facing a division opponent, so those games always get very difficult on how to judge, because teams play tougher against division opponents than non-division. It just always ends up that way. But I think CJ Stroud's in a really, really good spot at 5,300. One of the names I will mention again will be Trevor Lawrence. He's at 5,200. Nick Bosa is out. That is a huge blow for San Fran's defense. Trevor Lawrence's price point, 5,200. He has a potential, right? Trevor Lawrence has the potential for a 20-plus point game. He also has these games, 11.3 versus Jacksonville and 8.8 versus Houston, but Houston's got a good defense. And now, in my opinion, you get a good matchup against San Fran. So at 5,200, he's playable there. Other than that, there's not a lot down here that I'm really liking. I mentioned Spencer Rattler last week. Kind of disappointed, 12.7 at 4.9. But the pass attempts this man is producing is crazy. It is crazy. He's averaging 40 pass attempts a game. They're losing, right? Last week was the pretty definitive they lost game. Week 1 and 2 were winnable. And not saying they should have won, but winnable games. Threw his first pick, but I mean, Spencer Rattler's throwing the ball. He is throwing the ball. So, got to give him that. So, kind of looking at Trevor Lawrence as one of the cheaper pieces I'm looking at right now at 5,200. Running backs. Christian McCaffrey, 8,500. Bijan goes above. He's 8,200. I mean, if Purdy's in, Juwan's in, McCaffrey's still in a good spot against Jacksonville. He's still in a good spot, right? He's producing high number games. It's what he's always going to do. But, I mean, the targets is ridiculous. 10, 7, 15 targets. He got 18 points on the receiving. He only got 5.2 on the ground. He got 18 in the receiving game for this one. And you look at this one. He gets another 17 in the receiving game. This one, 16 in the receiving game. So it could be a tough matchup on the ground for any running back that or any defense that McCaffrey's facing. He's still going to get receiving work. Bijan, Gibbs, like these guys are in tough matchups. Barkley's still in a tougher matchup, although I do kind of like this at 7,600. Jonathan Taylor, unfortunately, facing a tough defense in the Rams. We saw Saquon kind of get shut down last week against the Rams. 2.6 yards per carry for Saquon, so might be a week where we're going cheaper in the running back position. Even Derrick Henry against Kansas City, it's still a tougher matchup for him. Did unfortunately have a pretty crucial fumble last night. But, I mean, the last 2 games for Derrick Henry have not been nice. But, I mean, the price point is nice for Derrick Henry, right? A guy that has the potential for this is priced at that. I mean, that's a pretty good spot. James Cook, 7,100. This one seems like you're playing Josh Allen or you're playing James Cook. One of these guys is going off for 20-plus points in this one. James Cook, obviously, for the price point is cheaper. So you look at him. But Josh Allen could be the safer play. But either way, Buffalo quarterback running back is probably in consideration for cash in your lineups this week. Bucky Irving, kind of a tough matchup with the injuries to the wide receiver. That does not benefit Bucky Irving that much, so that unfortunately sucks. Kyren Williams, 6,300, man. I played a lot of him when he got 10, and then comes in for a touchdown against the Rams last week. So that one definitely hurt. So, but yeah, Kyren is going back to getting the work. I mean, he's just been pretty consistent as far as the numbers so far this season. So, 6,300, I'm okay with Kyren this week. Ashton Jeanty, this one is one to watch out for. His price keeps going down, rightfully so. He's not producing. When people don't produce, their prices go down. DraftKings, just remember that. But Ashton Jeanty is probably in his best spot he's seen so far this season against my Bears, unfortunately, at 6,200. So I do like Jeanty this week. Alvin Kamara, I will continue to mention Alvin Kamara's usually in a good spot. He didn't see the receiving work that he saw the week before against Seattle, which was weird because he got a lot of rushing attempts in that game. They just didn't go to him in the receiving game as much as I'd like. So he kind of was a dud last week. Chuba Hubbard in a good spot against New England. Just saw what Jaylen Warren did. But the one thing is Rico Dowdle got a few more opportunities than we'd like to see for the Chuba side. So that's concerning. One name, though, Amari Hampton, is 5,900. Got 24.9 points against Denver last week. Faces the Giants this week. And Najee Harris, unfortunately for me, is out for the season. I had him in a lot of best ball, so that definitely takes a toll on that. But Amari Hampton, kind of, I don't think the Chargers are going to do it, but he's probably in a bell cow role. At 5,900, he's a really, really good spot. Tony Pollard, yet again, this guy's getting all the opportunities. We saw Chestnut get in there, though. We did see Chestnut get in there. But Tony Pollard getting a majority of the opportunities. And we see his price go down to 5,600, so it's definitely worth a mention there. Quinshon Judkins, I mentioned him last week. I said at 5K, I like Quinshon Judkins. I don't love it. I like it. It's probably one of the tougher matchups he's got this season. He's still produced 5.2 yards per carry, 6.1. This is against Baltimore and Green Bay, and he gets another tough opponent in Detroit. So maybe when he doesn't get a tough run defense, we could see Judkins have a spectacular game, but he's in a good spot. Cam Scatterboo at 5,500. I mean, 24 points against the Chiefs is phenomenal. So gets another tough opponent, unfortunately, in the Chargers. But with Tyron Tracy being out, still look at someone like Devin Singletary to get a few more attempts. But, I mean, Cam Scatterboo, I think for the opportunities is in a good spot. DeAndre Swift, yet again, he's worth mentioning. He's getting a lot of work in Chicago. Was not good against Dallas last week, unfortunately, but he did have a good receiving game to back it up. So, has not really produced at his numbers, but against Vegas, I don't mind it as much. Gotta mention Nick Chubb in this one. We saw last week kind of the work go elsewhere a little bit more, but against Tennessee, I think it's in a really good bounce back spot for Nick Chubb at 5,100. I would like to play Kansas City running back. I liked Isaiah Pacheco going into this season, but Isaiah Pacheco just has not looked good. Kareem Hunt pretty much has looked better than him at his price point. So, unfortunately, right now, we don't have anybody that really stands out down here. It's kind of a cheaper play unless some injuries pop up. Puka Nacua against the Colts, yes, at 7,900. Nico Collins only goes up $100 against Tennessee. He's in a really good spot like that one as well. Amon-Ra against Cleveland. He's in a good spot against Cleveland. They run man coverage a lot as well, so he's in a really good spot. League Neighbors, I don't know if I want to play it for the price point. Emeka Egbuka. Look, this is crazy. This is crazy. I will say, if you want to see some crazy price adjusting, this is crazy. This is the craziest thing I've seen. Emeka Egbuka, really good week one at 4,600. All right, we'll price him up $1,200, 12.9. All right, we're gonna price him up $500, 14.5. All right, we'll price him up another $500. Like, Emeka Egbuka is going to be like the number one guy this week for Tampa Bay, but at 6,800, I don't know if he's worth paying that price point anymore. When he was cheaper, when he was 58, even 63, it was okay, worth paying. 46, obviously, but at 6,800, I don't know if Emeka Egbuka is worth playing anymore at that price point in a tougher matchup against Philly, when he's probably going to be the only one there between Evans and Godwin. But yeah, Zay Flowers in a good spot against Kansas City, 67. His price, his price went up. I get it. They didn't know what the game was going to be, but they apparently accounted for him to have a good game because this is what I mean. He goes up, he's 31. He goes up 500, 14.9, goes up 200, and then they price him up $300 with 3.3. Granted, this came up early, but they still adjusted him to have another good game. So unfortunately, Zay Flowers is in a tough spot for his price point. When you get someone like Ladd McConkey down here, you get someone like A.J. Brown, Rome Odunze. Look at Rome Odunze's prices compared to Emeka Egbuka, right? Emeka Egbuka's 500 more, and they've had pretty similar fantasy points this season. So that's stuff you have to take into consideration when you're making on targeting these players. But A.J. Brown only goes up $100 against Tampa Bay. Devontae Adams only goes up. He doesn't. I thought he was 6,100. No, he was 6,200. So he stays at that price point against Indy. Brian Thomas Jr. I would love to play Brian Thomas Jr., but he is yet to have a good fantasy outlook so far this season. Deebo Samuel at 6K, definitely fine with him. Tet McMillan does not go up in price. He is 5,900 again. Kind of a disappointing game when you consider Carolina won 30-0. Jatavion Sanders out. We already know that he's ruled out for a couple weeks, it looks like. But Tet McMillan still in a really good spot at his price point against New England. I would just watch the Christian Gonzalez news. That could hurt Tet a little bit. Drake London, 5,700. I'm okay playing Drake London this week. Ricky Pearsall, obviously okay with playing Ricky Pearsall. We're look and see what Juwan Jennings' price is. I'm okay getting exposure to Buffalo. I just don't want to overdo it with the huge, heavy favorite, 16. I just don't want to get too exposed to Buffalo and get any, just get burnt by none of these guys having great games, but all of them having good games, if that makes sense. We're getting DJ Moore at a cheap price, right? 5,600, so obviously does go up compared to last week against Dallas. Pretty consistent numbers so far, although the receiving wasn't there, made it up for a touchdown to get as high as fantasy. Roma Dunze obviously is emerging as the number one. Luther Burton had a really good game, but DJ Moore still has that potential to get you that 20-point plus game. And against Vegas, it's one of them to kind of target. Quentin Johnson, I mentioned I didn't like Quentin Johnson last week against Denver, and Quentin Johnson is just being a good receiver now in the NFL. So it's putting up good numbers, good matchup for Quentin Johnston as well. Jacoby Myers, obviously, this one is probably going to be in your cash pool of players. 5,400 for Jacoby Myers in a really good spot like that one. Devontae Smith, 5,400 as well against Tampa Bay. It's a really good one. Shakir against New Orleans, I mentioned, though. I just want to be a little lower. Keenan Allen, same thing. This guy, if you played him last week, he had a really good week, right? A lot of the chalk is working for cheap wide receivers. And Keenan Allen definitely paid off at his price point. Hollywood Brown at 52, I think he's in a good spot against Baltimore. Chris Olave, I mentioned him for just a safety net of points is what it is, but the targets are ridiculous. The yardage has just got to be there. I mean, we're seeing some low yardage for the targets he's getting. So maybe one game, probably not against Buffalo, though. Michael Pittman, definitely playable at 5,100. Juwan Jennings at 5K, if he's back, I'm okay with for his price point. Obviously, he's cheaper than Ricky Pearsall. But, I mean, for him being kind of banged up, right, left early in that game. But against New Orleans, puts up some really good numbers, has another good matchup against Jacksonville. We'll just watch the injury status of it. Jerry Jeudy could be in a good spot against Detroit. I like that one. Keep going down. Luther Burden got price adjusted quite a bit. That's sad. Bateman in a good spot. Darnell Mooney in a good spot. Christian Kirk's a name that I liked. I liked for picking up this week in fantasy. He's 4,400. First game back, he gets 8 targets in that matchup. So would look at this one, another good matchup for him. Trey Tucker, 4,200. Man, I mentioned Trey Tucker. I have him on a lot of dynasty teams. Unfortunately, didn't play him in a lot because a lot of them were starting, and I just didn't need to play him. But yeah, 43.9 DraftKings points, 3 touchdowns. Another good matchup. 17 targets the last 2 weeks. So Vegas receivers are going to be this way all season. One name I will mention because of the Alec Pierce. If Alec Pierce is out, I would look for Josh Downs to get a few more targets in this matchup. Obviously, they don't need to go with Josh Downs. Pittman's playing great. Jonathan Taylor's playing great. Mitchell's probably the name I would look for more, and we'll see his price point here soon, I'm assuming. Tyquan Thornton at 4K. I mean, he's emerging. 2 touchdowns the last 2 weeks. Put up some good fantasy numbers with the injuries to the receivers. So Tyquan Thornton definitely got to be more worth mentioning. And then another Thornton, but Deontay Thornton at 3,900 against Chicago. Yet again, mentioned him last week. He has not put up really good numbers, but I think he has that potential 1 week to pop off. It's just, you can't get overexposure to any of these guys down cheap. You just want to have some, which I did in Trey Tucker, and some of my lineups were good, but most of my lineups with Trey Tucker involved CeeDee Lamb in some shape or form, so that sucked. I mentioned Juju. Like, Juju's put up some good numbers with the injuries. He's at 3,800. Other than that, no one really stands out as of right now. Unless some injuries go down. Where was Mitchell? That's what I wanted to see. I'm assuming he's 3,100. If Pierce is out, he would probably be their deep ball threat. So would look at Ryan Mitchell at 3,100. Tight ends, we get Brock Bowers. He's cheap against the Bears. I played Brock Bowers last week. It was disappointing. He's been disappointing so far this season. I mean, week 1, he had a really good game against New England. We're getting Brock Bowers $700 cheaper than when he started, so he's got to be worth targeting, at least in some shape or form. Kelsey in a good spot against Baltimore. Tyler Warren, yet again, had his most disappointing game of the season, 6.8, but it was pretty much a Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman show in that one. Yet again, same thing for Kincaid as the other Buffalo players. Laporta, tougher matchup against Cleveland. Andrews, tougher matchup against Kansas City. Juwan, obviously a tough matchup, but I mean, the man is just receiving targets. Goes up $300, so he's in that 4K range, so probably starts to get more fadeable now. Hunter Henry, I mentioned, he's a boom or bust player. This is how he's going to be. If you played him, He had an amazing game, obviously, right? 2 touchdowns, 90 yards, 8 receptions, 29 points. But you will be countered with some of these games where he only gets 3 targets for 9 yards. I mean, obviously not that stat line, but we're going to have some games where he gets 4 or 5 points. We're going to have some games where he gets 10 plus points. That's just going to be how Hunter Henry is used in this offense. So just be cautious when playing Hunter Henry. I mentioned it last week, but just be cautious doing it. The Cleveland tight ends, right? Fannin goes up to 3,700. I mean, the last 2 weeks, maybe at the 3,100 price point, you could say 9.8 pays off. At the 36, it doesn't pay off at 5.5. We get a matchup where we just saw Mark Andrews go off against Detroit's linebackers. It's still a tough matchup, but Njoku's kind of price adjusted as well. So you're basically flipping a coin between the two Cleveland tight ends. Kyle Pitts does Kyle Pitts stuff, right? Atlanta had a terrible game, but I mean, receptions, yards, targets pretty much consistent in the last 2 weeks. So other than that, we'll look at Isaiah Likely. I don't know if he's going to play this week. I would watch his status, though. For his price point, it's definitely an interesting one. Brenton Strange, I mentioned I don't like playing tight ends against San Fran, but I think he's in an okay matchup in that one. But we're looking at some other names. Cole Kmet with if Loveland is confirmed out, I think is interesting at 3K. Tremble at 2,700 if Jatavion's out. So, I mean, that. But there's not a lot down here. The tight ends on the first look seem very, very ugly this week. So, Gadsden, I mean, maybe Gadsden kind of took on that receiving role for the Chargers. Gets the Giants this week. 7 targets, 46 yards. So, maybe Gadsden is an interesting one, but we would need confirmation that, Disley is out again, and apparently Tyler Conklin is not a receiving tight end anymore like he was utilized in New York. So we'll just move on. Just quick look at the defenses. 2,000 defense for New Orleans against Buffalo. Browns defense 2,200 against Detroit. Put up a really good game against Green Bay. Maybe we see it again, maybe not. Titans kind of interesting against Houston. Houston's just been underperforming, but the Titans defense has not been that good. The Giants against the Chargers. I mentioned the Giants this season. I mean, we're just going to continue to depend on them getting sacks to get you fantasy points. Jacksonville against San Fran. This one might be interesting, depending on who the quarterback is and the injuries for San Fran, but Jacksonville at 2,500, they put some pretty good fantasy numbers up there. We're getting the cheapest we've gotten them this year, so maybe that. But pay-ups, obviously, Bills against the Saints, Detroit against Cleveland, Houston against Tennessee. If Christian Gonzalez is back, New England against Carolina, I think is a good one. Washington's got to be a good one against Atlanta after they just got shut out. So some options there. But yeah, not kind of a cheap defense that stands out. If you want to go the Cleveland route, you can go that route. But kind of Jacksonville for the cheap, and then obviously the Bills, Texans, maybe New England. So that would be kind of who I look at a defense. So yet again, like I mentioned, this slate is going to be interesting to see where ownership comes in at. The noon games are all pretty much heavy favorites, and then the later games are all where the total is, the higher totals for the slate. So interested to see where ownership's going to be at, see what injuries come out this week and who kind of stands out because of them. So hope you guys did enjoy. Hope you guys had a good week 3 for DFS, and hopefully we have a good week 4. Obviously going to have a different slate this week. We get a Sunday morning game and then 2 Monday night games, so it's different than what we've seen. The Monday night, we've seen the 2 games, so not that different, but more than obviously a 1 and then a Sunday morning game between Minnesota and Pittsburgh. So hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.